All right, we're live. Guys, welcome. This is Ep.3 of the Investors Corner podcast with Crystal and Aneel. And today's a special day, right, Crystal? Why is it a
That's
special day?
right.
It's a momentous day. It's our first ever guest. Welcome. Well, we officially have our first guest.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, on Valentine's Day, I didn't get the memo, obviously, and didn't wear red either. So, but it's okay. The lovely ladies did for me. So yeah, super excited. Our first official guest on the podcast. Looking forward to digging in with her. So I'm thrilled to welcome like I mentioned, our very special guest, Amy Polak. She is the owner and co-founder of Entre Results. Born and raised in Houston, Texas. Amy considers herself a beacon of passion and the dedication, not just in her professional endeavors, but in her personal life as well. Right? She's a successful entrepreneur. She's a devoted wife, a mother of two beautiful children, and a Jack Russell Terrier. Very cool. Very cool. Truly, Amy embodies the spirit of balance and proactive growth. Her journey includes co-founding the not-for-profit Hope and launching a high-end jewelry business. Wow, I need to talk a little bit about that. And she's built a successful direct sales team. She's earned a certification in behavioral assessment for leadership and personal development as well. And really, Amy's mission to help others grow, overcome daily obstacles, and achieve their dreams through her unique coaching approach. So, today she's here to share some insights. Our podcast, Crystal, as you said, is focused on investors. So we're going to dig in, and she's here to share her insights on how she helps investors and entrepreneurs alike thrive. Well, let's dive in. Welcome, Amy. How you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
No, we're very happy to have you. Thank you for connecting us, Crystal. So I want to start with some of your approaches to helping investors. Okay, so let's dive right into it. Let's start with, can you share with us how, there's a lot of coaches out there, there's different business coaches, the gurus, as we call them, right? Can you share with us how your coaching philosophy, right? Your specific coaching philosophy and your approach is tailored to investors, especially those in real estate and the entrepreneurial space. What makes you unique?
Sure. So for me, I coach people, right? And it doesn't matter what they do or who they are. Everyone is so unique with their goals, their dreams, the visions that they have for their life. And really, it's coming and meeting someone who has a vision for their life, who has dreams and goals and ambitions. And at the end of the day, they're just kind of scattered and they don't really know how to put those together, how to make their dream a reality. And so when I come and I meet with someone, I'm meeting with a person and I coach the person and help them, give them the tools, the resources, the guidance, the framework so that they can achieve their goals and their dreams for their life and create their future.
It's taking the person approach. Everyone's different. Everyone has different goals. Everyone has different personalities, right? So I like that.
Yeah, I love what you said. It's a personal approach. It's custom fit for each investor, for each client.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
Yeah.
So I mean, what are some common challenges you see? You're dealing with high level folks that are business owners or investors. What are some common challenges that you're seeing investors face, and how do you kind of guide them to overcome those hurdles?
Yeah, I think there was an investor that I met, maybe, 4 years ago. I'm still working with him, and he was working a full-time job and had flipped a house. And I asked him, well, why aren't you doing more? What's holding you back from doing more? And he's like, well, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm like, really? You're not? That's interesting. You didn't strike me as much. And so with him in particular, it was opening up what he was able to see in himself. And setting that goal and saying, wow, like I am yes, I'm working full time, but I can be an entrepreneur. I can do this full time. And I recommended him a book. It's called Quitters. And I'm like, hey, just read this book, just let me know what you think. So I was just kind of sowing some seeds, and they fell on good soil because they sprouted a lot of fruit. And he just, I think that year he was like, you know what? I'm going to do 8 houses this year. I'm going to flip 8 homes this year. And I think he exceeded his goal. I think he ended up doing 10. And so for him, it was really just making him aware of more than what he thought of himself. Right.
I think what I take from that is sometimes it's just our limiting beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just our limiting beliefs that's stopping us from going. And sometimes it just takes a coach or a spouse or someone to say, listen, you could do more. Your potential is more. And it
Yeah.
clicks sometimes, but sometimes the biggest hurdle is just your limiting belief, thinking too small, and not being confident. You want to add something to that, Crystal?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the book I'm reading, Think and Grow Rich, and it was talking about how basically your desire, imagination of that mindset that Amy's talking about, when you get that honed in and focused, that it becomes, you also see your bank account grow as well. But when you have more of that limited mindset and that poverty mindset, that your bank account doesn't grow. And it's all about reframing that mindset.
Yeah, and it takes time. I mean, everyone has doubts. Everyone, and
Sure.
it's a daily thing you have to work on, right? It's not, and every day you wake out of bed, it's like, oh, I believe in the world, but
Right.
it's a daily thing that you have to work on. I think it's important to overcome those hurdles, and like I said before, it's usually just limiting beliefs and thinking that you can do more. That's the first step, right? Okay, great.
Yeah.
That was a great point. In your coaching practice, now you said you have a certification in behavioral assessment. Now, this is important
Yeah.
because it all starts up here. It's like,
Right.
how do you incorporate this certification in behavioral assessment to aid personal or employee or business development?
Sure. So what's really interesting about this assessment is that it's kind of a psychological assessment,
Okay.
and it overlays their behavioral preferences and tendencies with a job or with a career, and it pulls together, okay, the required preferences, the required behavioral tendencies with how this person chooses to act. And it's not a what can I do, but what will I do.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. And it identifies true strengths in people. And so based on this assessment, one strength or one trait is not necessarily a strength. And I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Optimistic. Let's say optimistic. That's a good strength, right? If
Sure.
someone's optimistic. But what if they're blindly optimistic and they make decisions without analyzing the risks, right? And
Right.
so
That's
what
interesting.
this behavioral assessment pulls out is it identifies where they fall within paradoxical traits that seem contradictory, but they're actually complementary. And so, for example, optimism and risk analysis. How optimistic are they in corresponding with how do they handle risk, or how do they analyze pitfalls is the more appropriate one. How they analyze pitfalls and optimism. And so some people, and that's where a lot of fear can come into. I think that's what holds a lot of people back, is they analyze the risks to death. And if they're optimistic, then they'll probably take action, understanding what those risks are, what the pitfalls could be. If someone is not a very optimistic person and they're taking a look at all the pitfalls, it's going to be harder for them to move forward. So they might need a little bit more coaching. They might need a little bit more help to feel confident in the decision that they can move forward, or help me to identify, if I have these different pitfalls, how can I overcome these pitfalls and go towards success? And so that's another thing that holds people back, is just fear of failure, the fear of not knowing, am I going to have an answer to these various different pitfalls? Is it going to ruin my life? Right. I think that's the biggest thing. And as
Yeah.
opposed to kind of taking one at a time and really looking at them individually and saying, well, probably this one investment's not going to ruin my life. And if someone is risk averse, okay, if I do feel this, but I really want to do this, how can I, or what can I do to make a safety net for myself?
Mm.
Right. So it's showing them that it's
Wow.
being able to see something objectively and saying, this is how you will
Wow.
behave, not how you can behave. And so knowing how you will behave and then saying, okay, but I can behave a different way. So let me start working towards changing my behaviors so that I can continue to move forward.
Wow. And this is a
Wow.
tool. This is a tool that you utilize to get that assessment, to get a baseline of the coaching clients that you're working with. And I think it's so
Mhm.
important, bringing it back to the investor side. There is risk in all investing, right?
Yep.
But are you the ones that is going to sit in that risk and analysis paralysis, then time waits and
Mhm.
they don't make the actual action to take the investment? Or is it's a balance, right? It's like, okay, yeah,
Yep.
you need to assess the risk, but it's also
Mhm.
spending the time is everything, spending the time overly analyzing and looking at everything and making that calculated risk is what it's all about. But you're saying that
Mhm.
you take that psychological kind of assessment to understand, okay, what they won't and will do. I mean, it's amazing that you incorporate that in your coaching.
Yeah. It's been a powerful tool and I love it.
Yeah,
I
and
got to
so
ask you, Amy, I wanted to ask what, after you've done this assessment on yourself, do you mind sharing what yours is personally?
So there are 12 different paradoxes, and I won't go over all of them, but one of mine that I am working on is enforcing and helpful.
Hmm.
So I am off the charts helpful, so
okay.
much so that I can become permissive.
Okay.
And when it comes to enforcing, I'm not a huge enforcer.
Hmm.
Um, as a coach, my clients are the ones that enforce and implement all those things. I can coach them, I can hold them accountable, I can do a lot of things that's going to help them, but they're the ones that's going to ultimately the ones that's going to implement something, right? And so really that one comes and bites me in the butt when it comes to my children, I think.
I believe it.
And putting some boundaries around just my personal space. And so I'm learning that and I'm growing in that. And I know that I'm super helpful and I know that I can become permissive at times and that can hurt other people too. So being aware of
Sure.
that and not allowing myself to be too permissive, but also enforce certain things and being confident in that as well. And I do think that it is a strong trait that I can apply in coaching. And I think it would be very helpful as well.
So I'm thinking that me and Crystal take this assessment, we bring you back on, and we go through it together. I think that's we're gonna pin
Yes.
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
So
okay.
look out for that. I think we're gonna the next episode or
Yeah,
episode
for
down. So
sure. Because I think it helps with communication
Yeah.
and business partners and things like that and growing.
yeah,
Right.
Absolutely.
and then
Okay, let's do
self-awareness,
it.
self-awareness, a deep dive
Sure.
into your traits, some things that you may not, like she mentioned, like some things you may not even know that you're doing or are, acting on, or just a psychological kind of imprint to do so
Yeah.
subconsciously or consciously. It's great to take deep dives into that. So, all right, moving on. So I wanted you to walk us through, all right? You're a business coach. You've worked with many clients. How many clients you think estimated have you worked with?
Oh my word. 100? 100
100? Okay.
plus?
So I want you to walk through a success story where your coaching significantly impacted either an investor or an entrepreneur's journey. And also, hey, give me one that it didn't work out, right? Whereas, like, what, for whatever reason it didn't work out. So give me those two: a success story and one that what didn't work out as well as you wanted to do.
Sure. Yeah. So share a story about an investor.
Okay.
The gentleman that I was talking to you about earlier, he's still investing. He does his target audience when it comes to home investing are, I mean, he buys homes that are anywhere from 300 to 500,000. And those are the ones that he flips, right? So they're big homes, they're big risks. The largest flip he did was, it wasn't even listed on the market, and someone made him an offer for 1.3
Wow.
million on that house.
Nice.
It's a hell of a
And
flip.
so, I mean, he was just like, wow, it was when the real estate market was really hot. I think this was last year,
Mhm.
or a couple of years ago, when the real estate industry was like really, really hot. And he's still working hard. He's still doing lots of flips. There are challenges certainly in the industry when it comes to flipping,
Mhm.
but he's continuing to grow. He's married. He has 3 young children, and his relationship with his wife is going well. He's being proactive and actively engaging with his children, and trying to add balance in his life so that his business doesn't completely consume him and take all his time away from his family. And so, so that's another thing that we do is, and how I coach people. I want to coach the whole person again, not just the
Yeah.
business part, but also the personal life, because our personal life impacts our business impacts our personal life.
Right.
And you really have to be intentional in both areas to create a future that you're going to enjoy living. And
Wow.
so
good.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he's gotten into the commercial real estate space, and he's also continuing to grow his residential home flipping. So that's kind of where he's at right now. That's a pretty big success story. And he quit his job. So,
That's what
there
I
you
was gonna ask
go.
you. So does he consider himself an entrepreneur now, right? He had the limiting belief. He's
Yay.
officially considered it. So definitely a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
huge. That is huge. Like you said,
Yeah.
the balance and then the quality of life, the freedom that he gets to gain back. It's
Yeah.
huge.
And,
Yeah.
and that goes to our next point, and you mentioned it, is like you are a proponent of implementing balance in life, right?
Right.
So how do you advise your clients to achieve this? Especially in this, demanding world of investing and business and, at a high level worth people. How do how do you advise them and give them tips or strategies or just things to do in regards to achieving this balance in business and professional and personal life?
Aneel, I don't have all the answers.
Well, that's
And
good.
so really it comes from like my clients.
Right.
And so what I bring to the table is asking powerful questions
Okay.
to help them introspect and think about their life. And
Okay.
so one of the tools that I bring to the table to help them do this is called the Tombstone Test.
Mm.
And if you've never done this before, I would recommend you doing it.
Never
Okay.
even heard of the Tombstone
Tombstone
Test.
Oh,
test. Okay. Cool.
wow.
Ah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Now, I thought everybody heard about this. I'm glad I'm
Nope.
sharing it. This is new information. So, what you do is you draw a tombstone on a piece of paper, and you write down the year you were born and the year you think you're going to die.
Wow.
And then underneath you write your what is it called? Epitaph, or what you want
Eulogy
written,
or epithet. Okay.
on your tombstone, how you want people to remember you
Wow.
when you leave this earth. What legacy are you going to leave behind?
Wow.
So once they write that, then it's okay, how are you living that out right now? It's
Wow.
powerful. It's powerful. And people have started crying when they do
Wow.
that, because we don't stop to think about those things. Life moves so fast. We are moving so fast trying to keep up with the momentum that we've created, right? We want to create momentum in our business so we
Yeah.
can move faster, but the kind of symptom is that we don't slow down
No.
to
Mm,
think about our
No.
life,
No.
wow.
right? And so balancing that out again with creating that momentum, creating speed, being wise with your time, and working smarter, not harder. And sometimes, yeah, you got to work harder too.
Yeah.
But also, like, you have to incorporate your life into all of that. And it's while you're building your empire, you have to take care of your personal life. You can't neglect that.
True.
And so then, okay, now with that realization, what are you going to do about it?
Wow.
Wow.
That
Yeah.
is so
I've
powerful.
already drawn a tombstone down and writing this down, going, okay, I'm going to do that. But I feel like I'm going to have some tears when I really just sit and do some soul searching on that for sure.
It's such a great point, Amy and Crystal. Like, when you think about, taking a turn, we don't think about death. But when you do that, it gives you this kind of perspective that, listen, I only have one day, so seize today. There's an amazing quote that came across that I went through. Is like, a man lives 2 lives, and the second one begins when they realize they only have one, right? And it's powerful when you start thinking that way. It's like, listen, you have limited time here. Everyone's hourglass is this, but we get so caught up in every day that we think we have more time than we really do, right? And to sit down, like Amy said, and have an exercise like that, and I've worked on that over the last couple of years too. And the most insightful people, they keep death and up front in some cases, because they understand and that motivates them. Like, listen, my time is limited. My time's limited. And they remind themselves of this because it's true. And often everyone that goes through life, they forget that, and an exercise like that, it sounds like just a amazing reset. And very reflective and very insightful, because it's like, you'll turn around, it's like, man, if tomorrow was the day, all the stuff that I regretted and didn't do, right? And it's like, man, I better get to it, right? Man, that's powerful. That's definitely powerful.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that, Crystal?
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think having that mortality in your mind as you're, like you said, hitting the gas, gunning in business, we forget sometimes when it comes to the balance, then the sacrifices that we're making, who we're sacrificing, all of those things. So that was really
and there's
impactful.
a balance. There's a balance too with the sacrificing, and really, okay, because there's short-term sacrifices, there's long-term sacrifices, and you really have to weigh all that in the grand scheme of things. And so when, doing your tombstone test, having core values, knowing what your purpose is here on this earth, what is your mission to do, is going to help you make those decisions and help you to identify what you're willing to sacrifice.
All right. It's so powerful. Okay, so we talked about balance, and for your clients, what strategies do you kind of personally use to maintain this balance? How do you implement these strategies in your own business and with your personal life?
Yeah, so in business and managing my personal life, I am a mom and I am a wife, right? All those things, they come first in my life, and the business comes secondary. And I've created I've done my tombstone test. I have my core values. I have my personal mission. And so we've made decisions in our life that impact my schedule for work. And so with our children, we have them in a university model type school, classical education. So they go to school, a physical campus 2 days a week, and they're home 3 days a week. So I homeschool them 1 day a week. That's what I want to do. And I have help on the other 2 days during the week. And then the other time I'm working. Those are my working hours. That's when I do my hustle. I do my grinding. I make my calls. I do all the things that I need to do to grow our business. And I work really hard during business hours. And when I am done, I'm off. I'm off for the day. And I really take advantage of the time that I have on office hours and off office hours to accomplish the goals that I have for my personal life, and then also accomplish the goals that I have for my professional life.
Beautiful. Love it.
Wow. Yeah, that's so good. I think you're so good, Amy, at having those non-negotiables and being able to say, no, turn it off. That can wait for business can wait the next day.
Mhm.
And
yeah.
I think that's great.
And there are exceptions.
Right.
And, if my business is low and I need to hustle a little bit more, I know there's going to be some temporary sacrifices that
Mhm.
I'm going to make in the short term to meet my professional goals.
Right.
Right. So I'm not going to always go to a networking event at night during the week because I know my kids are home, my husband's home, and certainly he can cover for me. Absolutely. But it's not going to be a consistent thing. Right. So my
Right.
evenings are protected. But if something happens to come in and I'm like, okay, I need to go do some more networking. I want to go meet some more people. There's this networking or I have a friend in town and I want to spend more time with them and they're going to this networking
Right.
thing. And then I want to hang out with them. That's not an everyday thing. And so there are certain times when I am flexible. So I'm not
Okay.
going to be, strict and like dogmatic about it. I'm going to allow for some flexibility, and make temporary sacrifices, just not continue to allow those to infringe consistently, right, in my
Right.
life.
Right. Be flexible, but bend not break, right? And so
Yeah.
have the flexible. But I love that. So okay, so from your experience, what are some other tools or practices that investors or people listening here uh, can use to navigate obstacles kind of they face daily? It's kind of a broader question, but like, just on a daily thing that they encounter, what are some things or tools or mind maps and things like that that they can use just to overcome obstacles that investors specifically go through?
Sure, yeah. So simple. We do the basics boldly.
Okay.
And when
Wow.
you can do the basics boldly, you will be successful.
Okay.
So what are those basic tools that they can use? Their calendar on their
Ah.
phone.
Hey,
You got to
simple.
calendar things. Some investors, they don't calendar what they need to do, what their objectives are, the appointments they have, meetings they have, and they're running all over the place like a chicken with a head cut off, being pulled in so many different
Oh
directions. And
boy.
so just taking some time to put some things in the calendar is going to help that
Yeah.
help that right there.
I think that's a
And
great
yeah.
point. That's a
Mhm.
great point. I think, in my personal life, I put things on the calendar, but what's been powerful for me is the night before. Is writing it down, goals, what's up for the day. It really some kind of gym, whatever we need to do, it's writing that down. I've fell off of that and I've seen the difference of when I've been on it, right? And
Mhm.
so consistency for me is one of my biggest goals this year, but also I've noticed that difference. It's like, listen, if you map
Mhm.
out your day, it just goes better. And you're
Yeah.
Right.
subconsciously planning that brain the night before, and your brain the night before, what has to get done, what's important to you, what's prioritized, what needs to be executed on. And I think as you go on in your business life, and things get more and more chaotic and people wanting your time and this and that and a test, I think the more you can structure, the more you can be planning and more you can use your calendar,
Mhm.
the better.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, like you said, pre-planning your day, pre-planning your week,
Amazing.
um, really setting like, what do you want to accomplish by the end of this year? You got
Right,
to start with the end. I mean, like, really, you need to start with your vision.
right.
Where do you want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 25 years from now? Right. And so then when you have your 25-year, your 10-year, you have your 5-year, then you can do a 3-year. And then you go to the end of this year. What do you want the end of this year to look like?
Wow. And then
And
you're
that's when you
almost
start setting your
reverse
goals.
engineering then, right? And then
Yeah.
you're almost reverse engineering. It's like this is the finish line, but what's the steps you need to take to get there? You're breaking it down in that
That's it.
regard. And that kind of takes you, I guess, to my next question was, how do you help them set realistic goals and then stay motivated and consistent to achieve that? I think that's key too, right? So,
Yeah.
give me some tips on what do you do with clients to help set those realistic goals. Like, listen, man, you got to be realistic here, but also stay motivated to continue on with them.
So it's interesting. People respond differently to goals.
Okay.
There are some people that will see a goal that, my goal is to hit the moon. Some people might say, I will never reach that, so I'm not even going to try to do that.
Mm,
And there's some people that will see that goal and they'll say, man, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to see how close I can get to that.
Yeah.
And that motivates them.
Okay.
So knowing how they respond to big goals is really important when it comes to goal setting.
Oh.
And
I
so
never thought about that. Everyone responds differently to goals. We should look at that, Aneel, and see, okay, how do you and I respond to our
Right.
big goals?
Yeah, and
Yep.
I
That's
think there's
interesting.
a balance there. I mean, it brings up a point. It's like, okay, yeah, there's realistic. What you think is realistic could be subjective, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's subjective. It's you know, going back to that. But another, some people say, hey, hit the goal so high that, you know, what do you say, land on the moon, but hit the stars or something like that, right? And so
Mhm.
yeah, and I think that's a very good insight from only probably a coach could give us that. Is, you know, people you know, respond differently. Their relationship with their goals are different, and how they look at them and how they even go after them is different. So they would more,
Mhm.
you know, some play. I would think a lot of people would play it safe, like, you know, I can achieve this, and let me set the bar here. But then there is people that want to hit it up the park and set them high, and you know, that's interesting. I think but how do you kind of help them set the balance? Like, listen, man, you know, like, yeah, this is a very big goal, or do you categorize them? Big goal, realistic, true goal, right? Like, how do
Yeah,
you
no,
help?
I don't.
Okay,
Because I don't like, if I do that, then I would be putting limits on my own clients.
right, makes sense,
And
right,
I'm not here to put limits on anybody,
right,
right? I'm here to empower them, to encourage them to do what they want to do. And usually they create what they want. And if they're brand new, they're fresh out of the gate, and it's like, let's start small, like,
yeah,
or let's start big, whatever they think they can do is what we document and what we write down. I'm
yeah,
just here for them to talk about it, because some
gotcha,
people, they think out loud, and they need someone to think out loud to
gotcha.
kind
Me.
of
You know that. That's me.
to bounce back and forth. Like, what do you think about that? I'm like, that sounds amazing. What's holding
Yeah.
you back? Go for it,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so it's just, and then also getting that validation of like, okay, Amy said I can do it, man. I can do it. I can make it
Cool.
happen.
Cool.
And so people motivate themselves. And I'm here for the accountability. I'm here to help them document what they want to do. It's not what I
That's what
want them to do. It's what they
they
want to
want to
do.
do. Right.
Mhm.
I
And
love it.
and then I hold them accountable. And so if I see them discouraged and like it's not challenging enough for them, then I'm like, we need to
Gotta pick
we
it
need to
up.
do something different.
Right.
Like, this
Something's
is
gotta
not working
change.
for you. So we need to we need to increase the heat here. So, so
Yeah.
when I can see that, then I will
Then
challenge them a little bit more. But
then
it
you
takes time to see that.
then you actually
Hmm.
enforce your coaching, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so for our listeners and our viewers here, so who are just starting off, and I'm sure you work with people just getting started, right? You know,
Mhm.
on their either investor journey or their entrepreneurial journey. What is one advice that you would give them to kind of set them up for success?
What do you want?
Oh,
Hmm.
What do you
simple.
want in
What
life?
the hell do
That's
you
a
What do
want?
you
good question.
just what do you
Yeah,
want? A lot of
that's
people can't answer that question because
Yeah.
they're looking at other people's wants and needs, and they're trying to take care of what other people want, and they don't really stop to think, okay, what do I want? What do I want to accomplish? What would motivate me to accomplish my dreams, the vision I have for my life?
yeah, and you know, that's such a good point as well. It's like a lot of people don't verbalize that. Like,
Mhm.
what do you want, right? And be clear about it. You know, I'm a big proponent on like The Secret, the law of attraction, the thoughts become things, right? And those type of things. But a part of it is you got to know what you want, right? And there's a
Mhm.
lot of people that just you don't even haven't even gotten there, or sat down and verbalized it, or write it down, or visualize it. You got to know what you want, and then ask
Yeah.
kind of the universe for it, and then put the action in for it. I love that. I love it. I love it. Any resources or tools, you know, that an early investor you think should have in their tool belt? You know, is there something that they need to have, or a skill, or a resource as an early investor?
I mean, just something simple. I think they need to have a planner.
Okay.
and write down their goals, write down what they want, write down their key objectives, figure out like, how am I going to get to that point? What are the key action items I need to do to get to that point? I mean,
Gotcha.
I would start there, because
Okay.
when you can write it down and you can see your plan, when you can physically see your plan,
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, great. Now, how am I going to go and do that?
Right.
And then you can start doing your research. Then you can start finding all of the other different tools and resources that you need to help you be successful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love it.
We want to, before we get done, want to make sure that we cover the nonprofit, and want to hear Amy about her nonprofit. So would you mind sharing with us?
So Hope was, or is, a nonprofit organization that I started a while back, called Hope, and it's helping others through prayer and edification.
Wow.
And it's was going into the strip clubs here in the Houston area and reaching out to the women in the strip club industry and letting them know that there's more to life than, where they were, and
Wow.
giving them hope, giving them prayer. And if they want a new life, they can absolutely get a new life, and helping them to see that.
And, listen, sometimes it's just that one person to talk to someone and show them that, like, hey, listen, there's help, there's another way. So that's powerful. So when did you start that, and what was the kind of premise? Or what was like, hey, I want to do this? Was it something?
When was it? Crystal, do you remember? Crystal was part of that with me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was 2000. Was that 12-ish?
Wow.
Or 13?
2012.
It was about 12, yeah, because my
Yeah.
son had already been born.
Yeah.
And she shared with me just what was on her heart and what God was leading her to do. And
Wow.
because a lot of these women aren't there by choice either.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them are sex trafficked. And so Amy approached me and said, hey, this is what's on my heart. This is what I'm going to be doing. And I was like, girl, you going in? I'm going in with you.
Oh, man, that's so great.
You are not going alone. And so if you seen me, I'm taller, 6 foot, and then Amy, comes.
I'm 5'2". Yeah. I come like here, to Crystal.
So I was like, she needs a bodyguard, So it was such impactful ministry, and touched many, many women and children's lives. So.
Listen, and it's important. That's what me and Crystal are big about, is investing for good, doing good in life, and helping causes and missions like yours, many others. So Amy, I'm going to give you the floor to end this out, all right? Let us know where we can find you, some closing thoughts. This has been so insightful. I think I got a lot of nuggets. We have a tombstone exercise to do. What is it called? The Tombstone Test? We got a behavioral assessment to do. Hopefully we can have you back on, but I want to give you the floor, let you share some closing thoughts and where we can find you, connect with you. It's all yours.
Sure. Thanks so much. I appreciate you, Aneel and Crystal, for having me on and be your first guest on this. This is fun.
Monumental.
So people can get a hold of me at Amy, AMY, at Entre, ENTRE, results.com, entreresults.com. You can check out our website, entreresults.com.
Cool.
And if people wanted to call me, please no spam. 281-725-1325 is my mobile number. You can text me. Just let me know who you are, because I don't answer calls when I don't have them saved in my phone. Gotcha. So you can shoot me a text. Let me know you heard me from this podcast, and I'm happy to call you back when I'm available.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Our first official guest. She brought the fire. She brought the gems. A lot of stuff.
Yeah, she did.
So, guys, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is the Investors Corner. Episode 3 finally concluded with Crystal and Aneel. Thanks so much, guys, for joining. See you next time.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Aneel.
Thank you.
See you guys. Bye.